the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. I will make it right. I will make it right. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Tell me again. Tell me again.
Happy Valentine's Day, Rodney. I think we're a couple of seconds late. Sorry.
How's it
How are
going?
you? Well, look at that. You've got putting analysis in the back. I like that.
Come on over. You can
You-
work on your putting in the office here.
Well, Okay. Anything? Hey, Angie, how are you? Miss Angie Mad Cat is on the scene. She's getting it done. Happy Valentine's Day, young lady. Hope you're doing well. Can you see messages okay? You got those pulled up?
I do.
Okay, good. And I think this might be a kind of a shorter one than we're used to because it is a holiday. I mean, it's Valentine's Day, and I've got chocolate to eat. I've got places to go and people to see.
Hey, I'm married, so one of my loan officers told me earlier that I wasn't concerned enough about Valentine's Day, so he kind of set me straight a little earlier. So
Yeah,
I
well,
got to make up for dinner or something tonight.
well, I'm being a little less than truthful. What I'm looking forward to is I'm going to go work out this afternoon and get it out of my system. So that's what I'm going to do. So, anything exciting happen over the weekend? Hunting? Nothing?
No, I've been in mourning for a couple weeks, Andy. The season's over, so it's I'm getting back into golf now. So the sun shines back out. It's as long as it's above 45 degrees, 50 degrees, I'm playing golf now.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I'm not in touch with the hunting thing, and I figure we're 50-50 on audience with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And plus, I know those geese. I see your stuff on the other social media. Those geese out back, so back at your house. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd be tempted to love on them in a whole different way.
Hey, they're not bad. They're pretty good eating, though.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's good to know. Moving on. Starting with something first. My name is Andy Elliott, realtor here in Williamson County. I am with my buddy here, Rodney. He is a lender here in Williamson County. And if you didn't notice, there was an article on the news the other day. The top county in Tennessee happens to be, say it with me now, Williamson County. Yes.
Wow. I haven't seen that. I hadn't seen that.
I'll send that to you. I was almost going to include that, but thought that would be a little boastful. So
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But if you have questions about the content today, and if you're watching it after the fact, which is where most of that happens, our contact information will be in the description box after the closeout of the show. I always put that in after the show closes out. So Andy and Rodney, glad to talk to you. Call us anytime. We'll be here for you. So here we go. We always start out with Rodney's Rage. That's right.
I still like that.
Here we go.
That's a great intro right there. Well, you can see here, we have been today. It's probably the first time we've seen this live, Andy, where we pull up the thing and the market is telling us to lock right there. That's what I put that message out a few hours ago, maybe at 10 o'clock or something. I think about that mark right there. They put out a message for us to notify any clients that were floating and alert to lock. So you can see it's gone down a little bit today. And here we are. We are on a little bit of a slide here. You can see from now this looks worse because it's the last quarter. If you spread it out over 6 months, but when you look at 1 month, last quarter, so it's down. Now what is funny today that a lot of the news out right now is kind of getting caught up from this just a couple weeks ago. You know how the news runs a little bit late.
Yep.
And they're putting out how much of a savings it was. It's still a good savings, but it's definitely the last 2 weeks have eaten into that savings.
Well, can you pull your screen down a little bit? We got we've got an overlay on that thing.
Which one here? Not bad.
Whoops. Oh, we lost it. Anyway, so help me understand something in here. Hang on. Ping. There we go. And we're going to do this. Hang on. I got it. I don't know what happened there. Doesn't matter. I know that we can get this. So help me understand. Okay, there it is. It's back. Then isn't this where the rates, I understand what the lock is. That means lock because rates are going to go up, right? Is that what that is?
Yes. Whenever we're getting advice, is this what you're talking about?
It is, yeah.
Whenever we're getting advice, it is immediate advice, right? So they're telling us to lock immediately. Like this service is, it won't, it doesn't forecast for 6 months, if that makes sense. It just gives you a live shot at what the market's doing.
I get it. Yeah.
And when they see things that like, I think that right here where my cursor is, if you can see it, that was a floor of support. And I think when it broke through that, they immediately said, hey, things could get a lot worse than we anticipate, was it just by the market conditions or whatever. So that's why I feel like they gave us the call today.
Okay. Because I always thought and call me silly, but when you're looking at that chart, if you scroll up a little bit, just for clarity for me, if you can scroll up for me, can you scroll up?
This way?
No, so we can see the chart. Thank you. Yeah, when that goes, back, thank you. When that goes down, isn't that where the rates go down, like from where the L is to the right? Is that correct?
No, our pricing's getting, it's getting, when it read, it's getting worse. Meaning, You see on the far right, those numbers.
Yeah.
It's 101, 100.5, 100.
Yes.
That's how much they're paying for that rate.
Got it.
That's like a simulation of what it's going for.
Got it.
So when the money goes down, it means the rates, the rate's going up.
Okay. All right. Okay. Got it. Yeah, I'm really glad I'm not a lender.
Well, if you look at the top of it here, you see the US UMBS right here, 30-year 5.5.
Yes.
That 100.19.
Yes.
If it keeps getting worse, that 5.5 may go to say 6% or 5.75. It'll go up and it'll revert to where it's paying money. Like it'll go to, say if it goes to 6%, it might pay 102 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll be the new trading. So that's just kind of how the rates are going up.
Huh. So it's not a good day for the rates.
Yeah. Which is, it's, and it can't always be a great day for them. So.
No. I think if anything we've been consistent with the whole time we've done this is we've learned just to be okay with the variations because that's the nature of the beast. That's just the nature of the beast. So thank you for that. Rates are going up. Maybe today is if you're serious, get locked in your rates today, or it could be. Well, it might be what you want. Talk to your lender; they'll let you know.
Yeah, definitely call them.
So here we go. On the next step, we're going to do a little bit of news you can use. So there was two things that let me switch over here. Bing, there we go. There was two things that I thought was kind of interesting, and what we do is Rodney and I will kind of scour what's going on in the market because it's not all about rates and it's not always about prices and things like that. What we're trying to do is give people an overall feel about the housing market and their involvement in it. I don't know if that probably doesn't make sense, but I'm trying to be more holistic in that terms. You know, it's not always about the money. It's about when is the right time to buy. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But this first one, if you had a chance to see that one, Rodney, was home buyers need more than the lower mortgage to jump back in the market. Did you have, if you read through it, do you have any initial opinions on that?
You know, I like this article actually. I really liked it. You know, kind of the one of the first bullet points is the number of people contacting real estate agents the number has rebounded. It is up for the people who are contacting, starting the buying process. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
The average rate has declined from its peak in October, 7.37 to 6.125%. It actually got a hair lower than that for a second, but it's ticked a little bit up from that. But I think they, like on a $300,000 or $400,000 house, it's saving almost $300.
Yeah, I just want to interject one thing in here, just for a second. On this live stream, we're not necessarily, because he is correct. The reason they were talking about real estate agents getting contacts is because the data was coming from Redfin, and they are obviously a broker, and they're just fine. And so one of the data points that they keep track of is how many people are getting a hold of those agents. We recommend it if you don't have a clue on what you're doing and getting a house, but we're not here to say, we're not here to promote that in general. We're just here to help you gather information about the housing market. If you need help, let us know, but that's as far as we'll go. That's it. Sorry.
No, you're good. A drop in mortgage rates over the past few months has resulted in significant savings for potential buyers. That's kind of what we talked about. That was, I think it was like $293. Of course, we've talked about this a bunch. Sellers are now more willing to negotiate due to lower mortgage rates. So overall, it's doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, the thing that caught my attention, and we'll go through this number a couple of different ways today, is the median home listing price in January this last was just $400,000, which is, and this is where it gets to be a mind bender for anybody that's trying to keep track of this stuff, including me. Sometimes I have to write it down. Is that when they're using metrics in home prices and things like that, there's two metrics mainly. I'm sure there's tons more, but the main one is year over year and month over month. And that's what it gets crazy, because if you go year over year, they're telling you that home prices are up 8% year over year. That's how much prices are up. But last month it was 10%. And so this is actually a decline in the pricing year over year. And if it's month to month, it's only gone up like 0.01%. That's where it gets to be a little mind bender. But the point on this median home listing price of 400,000, in June of last year, the median was 449. That's significant. That's quite a drop. You know, I don't know about percentages, but it's reasonably close to 20%, I suppose, right? Something like that.
Well, what that just means that the average sales price, if you just bundle everything together, right? That's the average.
Well, median is different. Median means that half the market is on top, half the market is on bottom, as opposed to average, where you put them all together and divide them by that particular number.
So and they go by the number of units?
The prices. It's split like the median home listing price, and what they're talking about here is the sales price. For what was sold, 449 was middle of, if you took that graph, it was 449, it was dead middle. Half is above and half is below. And the reason they use that is only because you can use it for large samplings. Median home price doesn't do much for a small sample, and average doesn't either, because if you're talking about average prices here in Brentwood, it's going to be in the millions easily, because that's yeah.
Well, I bet some of it's due to some of our first time home buyers getting back into the market.
I I have to think that that's probably the case, and I think it's also because a lot of these prices have gone from super high to
Yeah.
they're moderating those things to get them sold. There's a lot of days on the market. Um, the next thing I see is the number of available homes for sale is still low, leading to upward pressure on that. And I'm going to make a point here in a minute. And it's talking about, and Rodney, you'd have to speak about what I think is number 8 to you. It could be number 7. The lower mortgage rates are expected to end the year closer to 5 than 6. That's just conjecture. Absolutely.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
If anything, over the last month, I've heard upward pressure, on this
Mm-hmm.
where we're at right now. So, yes, that is. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this is, and again, this is just information that flows across the wire, and what Rodney and I preach. I don't want to not really preach. Well, Rodney's rates, that's preachy, but
Yeah,
um, that's gospel, man. What we're talking about is everybody's got an opinion, including us, and sometimes Zillow is wrong, and sometimes National Association is wrong, and I mean, there's nothing carved in stone, but all we're trying to do is track a trend. I mean, that's who knows. And this is just one guy's opinion. There is one thing though that I noticed on this that we're going to hit more than once today, and that is experts advise that people should buy or sell when the time is right for them, because timing in the market is, it says here, counterproductive. My view on timing the market is it's impossible. I think it's, you luck out maybe.
yeah. I always look back. Take your take your life and and take a calendar, spread it out over all those years, like a graph, and write down there, just mark when you've bought houses, right? I bought a house in 2008. I bought a house in 2020, whatever. And those are just times in your life for me that you just buy houses, like either you're moving, your family gets better, you've gotten a better job, you're expanding, whatever it is. There's just times in people, and all that's different, right? So yeah, I think you kind of move with your job or you move with your family, and then you manage the debt the best you can along the way with maybe a refinance or something.
Yeah. And I'm getting ready to do another video this week about timing, because in this particular market, and I don't know, Rodney, if you ever have seen Reddit or even know what that is. That's not a test. I didn't know what it was either until a couple of years ago. But Reddit is where just people get on there and they say their mind. And I don't know that it's unedited, it's moderated, but it's people just speak their mind. And in the real estate section, some of the most common things that people will try to do is they're trying to buy on the dip, and nobody knows. You don't know where that is until down the road.
Yeah.
The dip is something you figure out when you're looking back,
Now, I'll say if I'm sitting back and saying, if I'm an investor and I want to buy 4 or 5 houses or something, or whatever, 100, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit back and you probably wouldn't have been buying in the last year,
Correct.
when they're, just at their peak, right? I mean, so yeah, I think that, you can kind of do that, but right. If you look at that graph, and when your life hits, that's kind of where when your month or two hits, that's you get the choice of those rates right there until
Yep.
you know, till
Yep.
you get an opportunity to do something different.
And I know some really smart, I'm sure you do too, but I know some really smart investors, guys. One, his name's Brian. And, um, I mean, he's got some pretty bitchin' software that tracks numbers like it's really impressive. You know, I mean, it's a whole computer program that gives him a nudge when things are looking good, that kind of stuff. But the difference in an investor and somebody buying a house, like maybe somebody like me, if I'm buying a family home, is he's just looking at the numbers, and that is a commodity to him. You know, is it a good time can he make his money back, ROI, either through rent or for sale down the road? And I'm making a completely different decision. Will my family be happy in this house? You
Right.
know, that's a hugely different decision to make. You know, that's just my opinion. And investors, some people call them cold. What I call them is calculating. They're smart guys. You know, these
Yeah,
guys are
exactly.
smart.
Yeah.
They're smart. You know, and what they do is different than if you're trying to buy a house for your wife or your Valentine. Perhaps it's a Valentine's Day house. That's what it is.
Yes. And the timing can be, a lot different. That's the
Yeah,
thing. That's thing.
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And sort of the payoff on this particular one, unless you have other ideas there, Rodney, was the point of this is home buyers are going to need more than lower mortgage just to jump back in the market. And this is what Rodney has been preaching, or you've been very uh, um, powerful about in this last month or so. Is it's about inventory. It says interest rates in the 5s or 6 range. We don't see the 5s happen, but 6 range, that's not enough to offset the bigger problem of limited supply. And in the end, and this again is going to be a repeating concept. I think that buyers and sellers alike are looking for the same thing, and that is a little bit of lower rates. Buyers are certainly looking for it to lower their mortgage payment. Got that. But sellers are looking for a little bit of better number, so they're more comfortable trading that what might be a 4.5% mortgage on the home they own for a 6.25 on the new one, you know. And I think there's going to be a cross when you see rates drop, and it's not going to be a bunch, as we've talked about before. You're going to see sellers more comfortable with selling and buyers more comfortable with buying. And I think there's going to be this strange balance where prices aren't going to change much, but home sales are going to go up. I just mark my word. I bet it does. Just guess.
What are we going to do if a lot of these folks can't afford, like they really can't afford, like if they had to buy the house that they're living in, and it turned into $1 million house or 800,000 or a $600,000 house, what do they do?
What you're asking me is if somebody sold a house and couldn't buy again.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking you've got two really good income earners, a couple people making, 75 to 100,000 a year as a family, and of course they have a kid or two, and how much that eats up how much kids cost. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying you get that 100 to 200,000 income. They bought like a 250,000 or $300,000 house. It's now a $600,000 house or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
their income hasn't went up 40%, but when they go and buy that next home, they're going to have to go to $1 million to get 6 more square feet than they got.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like I hate to say it, unless somebody has a better idea, it sounds like they're a little bit stuck until something changes. Which, okay, so on this next thing about the news is what is a good income to buy a house in 2023? lends beautifully into what we're talking about. So home prices, let's talk about this a second. The question is, what is a good income to buy a house in 2023? Rodney was just touching base on that. Home prices grew in 9 out of 10 metro markets in the fourth quarter 2022. There's more than 10. There's 186 that they measure, but they're saying 11% of metros home prices grew in 9 out of 10, which is, I'd call that a majority. I don't know.
Yes.
Might be bold. That might be bold. But 18% of the 186 metro areas saw double-digit price increases, down from 46% in Q3 of 2022. Man, that's wow. So that tells you that the market's cooled off a little bit, because 46% is a lot. The national median single family. Now, this is where we're going to bump up against another median price that's a little bit different from a different reporting. That's correct. That's right. Depends on how much equity they have, Rodney, was what Angie's answer was, which is very smart. Talking about buyers moving up.
Transitioning, yes.
Yep. So in this particular setting, it was saying that the median price was $378. Well, by some measures, that's going to be accurate. You know, there's just so many metrics to be taken into account. If you're going to Detroit, the median is, I don't even want to say, it's like way low. But housing cost increase have far surpassed wage increases and consumer price inflation since 2019, meaning that unaffordability has been growing rapidly. Now, here's an interesting point. When I read about unaffordability, here's the way they measure this. And Rodney, you're the guy who's going to have the answer on this. A mortgage is considered unaffordable if the mortgage payment, principal and interest, amounts to more than 25% of the family's income. Wow.
Well, okay, more than 25% of a family's income.
That's what they're saying. That's when it's considered, that's apparently the gauge for unaffordability. I'd have to say they need to change that rule maybe.
Well, you know, what's Fannie Mae is usually promoting 29, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's post taxes. That's that 29 for us is after tax.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, but pre-tax. I mean, I get to can't like if they make 50,000 a year, I take the 50,000. I don't have to use the tax number.
Okay. But anyway, so I thought that was an interesting way that they gauge it, because it says here that the families spent on average 26.2 of their income on mortgage payments, up from 17.5 year over year. That seems like not enough. I mean, it just seems, I don't know where this article's come from. But it says here also, first-time buyers spent 39, almost 40% of their family. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just a lot. Families spent 40% of their family income on mortgage payments, up from 37.8 in the previous quarter. Man. And what's the limit on that? Like 43% or something? What's the?
Well, it's depends on which desktop underwriting you're using, whether it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or whatever. But wow, yeah, that's
it's a bunch.
It's not going to accept many over 45 unless you got a lot in reserves,
and very, very little debt.
Yeah, so it's went up from 7. Did it start at 17? You said
it said 17% year over year. It just doesn't seem.
That one seems low because I think the 26 sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't know where that. And again, there's a million places to scrape data. I just thought it was an interesting.
Yeah.
So we think differently than this author. That's what I'm getting at. So, but to answer the question, before we get to the main topic, in 71 markets, a family needed a qualifying income of $100,000 to afford a 10% down payment mortgage, while in 16 markets, we got to do the math. In 16 markets, a family needed less than $50,000. The top metro areas with the largest year-over-year price increases were Florida, Carolinas, while the top 5 metro areas with the biggest price drops were in California. Well, we know that the less than 50,000 is not in California. So there's 186 metros that they're watching. It said in 71, you needed at least 100,000.
In 1971? No.
No, in 70, there's 186 metro areas that are watched. In 71 of those markets, you needed $100,000. We're answering the question, how much does it cost to buy a house? And in this case, they're talking like median. They're calling 378. We've called it 400. Let's call it 400-ish. So 71 markets out of 186, you need 100,000 to get that kind of a house. In 16, you only needed 50. So now we've accounted for 16, 71, 81, 87. So the balance, the other 100 metro areas, you need more than 100,000. That's my math.
Yeah, 110.
Mm-hmm.
115 or whatever metro areas that you have to make over 100,000 to buy a 378 purchase price with 10% down.
Yeah.
In 2016, you said it was you only needed 50,000. Was that
not 2016, but in 16 of those 186 markets.
Why am I thinking years, dude? What am I doing?
Probably because the way I explained it, I didn't.
No, it's my bad.
It's the deliverer, not the receiver. Yeah, 16 markets in that were less than 50, and I think if I look, the markets where the biggest price drops, of course, were California, San Francisco, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, a third California metro area, Sacramento. But we know none of those qualify for the 50,000 or less.
Oh,
I'm just going to call it what it is. That's going to be the Detroits and things like that.
We can probably pull that after the show, after the
live stream.
Santa Clara median price. I bet it's
still high.
Gotta be in the billions. I mean, goodness gracious. Give me that sunshine.
Here's a here's a good question I think that you might be able to take a look at.
What percentage does a lender look at our expenses? Okay. Yes, you're going to look at Fannie and Freddie's going to look at any debt ratio. They're going to take your housing expense plus any other debt you've got, and let's just say they're 29 and 41 is a standard mark. 29% of your gross income, and then 41%, 29% for your housing debt, and 41% for your overall. So.
And did you let's address this one if possible. Can you read that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's basically, when you only have a 20% loan, they're going to really look at they're going to look at your credit and your income, so that they're not going to care as much if your income's gone down especially when you go into retirement. They would if you were self-employed and your business was really crashing, but not retiring. That would be taken into consideration. and plus at 20% loan to value, the computer model is probably going to love that. They'll probably even waive your appraisal.
Because it's probably going to meet the appraisal, if you're 80%.
As long as as long as you're in an area where there's a lot of data.
Yeah. Hopefully that's good stuff, Ronnie. That's good stuff. So, home buyers need more than lower mortgage. We know that inventory is what they're after. What's a good income? We know that as a family, for the lion's share of the country, it looks like, I don't agree with everything this article has to say, but it looks like $100,000 seems to be the magic number for the biggest portion of it. So the next question that I wanted to cover, and this may go kind of quickly, but when people are starting to jump back into the market, what I have learned over the years is when I get somebody on the phone, the first thing they're going to say, and that I don't care when this happens, is this a good time to buy, is almost always the first
Really?
question.
I didn't know that.
Is this a good time to buy? And what they're asking is, if I buy today, are prices going to tank in the next week or month or 2 or 3 months down the road? That's what they're asking.
Mhm.
And it goes back to the thing which seems like a recurring phrase that we've been talking about, is buy when you're ready, which makes sense as long as you're staying. If there were a caveat on where to maybe wait and watch, we've mentioned that in California, of the top 10 cities that are losing value by whatever reason, 5 of them are in California. So if you live in those areas, that might be worth a little caution to wait and watch on that. But as we've described for the rest of the country, that doesn't seem to be happening that way. It's a very slow thing. So let's talk about home prices actually dropping, because then we get into the year over year versus month over month. It starts getting that Twilight Zone thing going on. So what we're really going to answer, the question that we're really going to answer is it safe to buy, or is something dramatic going to happen? That's actually what's happening. So in 2022, home buyers faced high interest rates, low inventory, making home ownership difficult, especially first-time buyers. We got that. National Association of Realtors predicts more stability in the housing prices for 2023. I have to agree 100%. Do you have any particular thoughts on that, Rodney?
I think the data's showing that. I think it's already
Yep.
stabilized. I think it's been stabilized.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying that a couple of months ago. Yeah, you were saying that a couple of months ago when it was still wacky, but you're looking at it from a completely different place, meaning you're from inside the numbers and I'm from outside. It's just a different view. That's why I like this relationship so much, because, man, we see the market different. Our viewpoint is different. So home prices, we know that home prices are affected by mortgage rates. We got that. Inventory, got that. Inflation and local market conditions. I want to break that down just a little bit. If the mortgage rates are high, that means there's going to be fewer buyers out there able to purchase. And that means sellers are going to be on the market longer. And so they're forced to entice the buyers to buy their house because there's nobody buying. And the way they do that is lowering the price. The exception, as Rodney and I are like, if we could put on a clinic of how to get top dollar, here's what it is. Move in ready, price to sell. 2 steps. That's it. And you're going to get multiple offers and probably over ask. Not a ton, but you'll get that. And that's been Rodney's experience. And I've been selling that idea since Terry DeSelms in 2010. Price it right, make it look good. That's good. So the mortgage rates, got that. So mortgage rates slow down purchases that cause demand to dry up. All of a sudden, they've got lower prices. We got inventory, same thing. If nobody's got houses out there, you would think it would cause prices to go up. But because nobody's buying, or very few, sales were down, I don't know, a tremendous amount last year. Plus the houses that are the actual listings is less than 1 million. It's 970,000 across the country. Normally it's like 2.5.
Wow.
So there's no inventory. Plus the time on market is 2.7 months. That's the absorption rate.
Yeah.
I'll stop for a minute and I'll breathe. If you want to chime in, Rodney.
I mean, yeah. What do you say? I mean, it's that you've been telling me the whole time that I've been thinking inventories. It is getting better, but it's probably not getting better near fast enough.
That's correct. But that leaves us with, so we've dealt with all those, and each of those, it's the intersection of that drives people crazy, and it makes them ask the question: is it a good time to buy? Whew, that's a tough question when you've got that many variables. But then it comes down to the last point, and this is really Rodney's strong suit among all the other strengths that he has. He has a good feel of the local market. It depends. Home prices are going to depend 90% on where you live. I mean, it just is.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I have a friend that lives in Guntersville, Arkansas. You can get a house pretty cheap down there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I have a friend that lives in Brentwood. You can't get a house very cheap up in there. It depends on where you live,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's and when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about like from my perspective as well as just somebody buying a house to live in. That's what when I think of that, it's like, I always tend to think, that people are their best counselors. People are their
Yep.
best financial advisors.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
when somebody feels like it's a good time to buy, it is a good time to buy. They know their circumstances better than I do. They know how they feel about their job. They know their relationships. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of
Yeah.
that factors into when you're buying a house for a primary residence. So a lot of that is, just having a conversation with the with the buyer and figuring out where they're at, and then you can kind of get a better sense and kind of, you can educate them on the market, and then they're their best advisor. Like I said, if you give them the information, they can make good decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And Angie was saying on here, give it 3 months and inventory will be going up. I agree for a couple of reasons. I think that this is just my personal opinion. I think the Fed has a pretty good handle on inflation. It's pretty good. What do I know, though? I'm an idiot. But it seems to be working. And when that happens, mortgage rates, they're going to go down. They went below 6. They'll do it again. They did. It'll happen. Plus, people cannot. I've been doing this 18 years. Lord, people can't when it's springtime. People can't resist. I have to go look at some houses. It's like a drug, Hit me up with some home showings.
Yes, I am with you there, man. It's like I always tell people I'm like a flower, man. I need that sunshine too. You gotta get outside.
Yeah, and that's where you hear people saying, "Heck with the spring cleaning. Let's just sell the house." Let's just. I agree 100%. You're going to see inventory rise, starting, call it now, and it's going to start going up fast. So I don't think it's going to take 3 months is kind of my point. And then it talks about on prices, will they actually drop? It goes back to the San Francisco situation, which we covered. And then it finalizes in this particular article with two things. Should you buy now or wait? And it seems like a recurring theme today, but that's the overriding question people are going to have. And what Rodney is saying, and I agree, it's your gut that's going to tell you what you need to know, unless there's something like serious red flags going up, you know. Should you buy now or wait? If it's the right house and you can afford it, which is key, talk to your lender. You've just got to make sure that those numbers work for real, not in fantasy land. I don't mean to be unkind, but you just have to double check those work. And if you find a house, buy it. Because down the road, now you were not a fan of the idea of them preaching refinancing down the road, were you, Rodney? Was that you pushing back on that a little bit?
No, I didn't like I did not like all that junk about, all the fancy sayings,
Date the
marry
rate.
the house and date your rate and all that nonsense.
Right.
Because really, there's nothing free down the road. I mean, what changes, right? I mean, is there some miracle thing that I don't, that companies stop charging money for appraisals? I mean,
Right.
this stuff costs money. There's not a huge spread in a lot, in a tight market. So yeah, so sit there, and then I always said, hey, look up your loan officer. Is he going to be at that company in how many years does he change over and over and things like that? So no, I wasn't a fan of it. You always manage your debt, whether it's credit card debt, car debt, house debt, and if it comes a better time to refinance it, 100,000% you need to refinance it. But
Yep.
I just didn't like all this. I thought it was a little bit of a nonsense where these people hadn't seen different markets. I've seen high rates before. You know what you got to do? It's the people's got to adjust to them, and it's people's got to. It's everybody got adjusted to a 2% rate or a 3% rate pretty fast. But we just the whole market's got to adjust to it. But
Yeah, I think what I hear you saying is it's a little bit salesy to try to get somebody to buy now by kicking the can down the road.
if they can't, right? If they got to have some kind of trick to buy now,
Then don't.
no. It like I had a customer call and we haven't had the discussion whether it's a good time for her to buy or not. But I did send her like a rent versus own calculator just so she could see it and she could play with the numbers. So when we come in, she's probably going to have done that thing several times, and we're going to have a good conversation about, well, what's your rent look like in 5 years, and things like that. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, you have to look at that. So I appreciate that very much, Rodney. So as we're looking forward, trying to figure out if you should buy now, there's things to consider. What are the mortgage rates doing, and what are the economic trends looking like in the future? You can't tell in the future very far, but you can get a gut reaction of what's going on. And the last question that they have in here is, how much inventory is available near you? And I mean, I have this saying that has worked for a decade and a half. And I don't think that I must have made it up, but when people get stressed out about finding a house, I mean, if you've got your finances ready and you know where you want to live and you know the kind of house you have that you want, but it's not there yet, my advice is don't force that. Let the right house come to you. Because people will get stressed out, and what they'll say is, it's kind of heartbreaking. We'll never find the right house. They start getting stressed out. We're not going to make it. I don't know what they're not going to make, but we're out of time, or we're just not going to find the house we want. And recently, it was a few months ago, and I had an older couple, lovely, lovely people, but she was stressing out, and I kept telling her, I said, look, just if you'll trust me, let the right house come to you, because it will. And when it arrives, you and your husband will know, because prior to that, she was trying to talk him into, for lack of a better term, into buying these different houses because mostly they just had 4 walls and a roof.
Yes,
And,
and it was available.
and it was available, and she felt safe, at least dry and warm, at least in her head. And I kept saying to both of them, I didn't, put one against the other, but I said to both, if you just trust me, the right one will come along. And I'm telling you, I've done this 100 times, and after a dozen or so, you start to think maybe this is a principle. So you start believing in it. And sure enough, within about a month, but it took a month, I had to talk her down the ledge a couple more times. That house came, and they were both so on board with that one. There was no questions. They both loved it, and they got their house, and they're happy. They've lived happily ever after. My point is, I guess, what, if we were to sum up today, it's trust your gut. Really, Rodney, you're the one that said that. I like that. Yeah, when you're doing this, just trust your gut. You got to look at the numbers, but anyway. So when the inventory goes up, you're going to have more options, and you'll find the home you want. Trust me, you will. Golly, that was good.
Yeah, I think it's always good. People know when they'll, if they don't like an adjustable rate HELOC or something like that, they can feel it in their gut.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that in your gut too, when you're getting too cute. And what I mean by that is all these techniques. I mean, you're putting money over here and doing this with an arm and a HELOC, and you're starting to get wonky and wacky. And I mean, you're trying to force it to happen, I think.
Yeah.
That unless you have to have something for some reason, which you could always rent. So I'm exhausted. I'm out.
It's nap time.
Any other thoughts, Rodney? Have we forgotten anything?
No, I think no. I like these topics. I think it brings up some interesting conversation with just affordability and the different perspectives on this. And I think you said this a couple of times. You wrote these articles, right? That you.
Yeah.
But just seeing different people's perspectives on this, you agree with some, you don't agree with others, and that's why the world spins around. So it's
And if people want the question directly answered about will home prices drop, the answer is yes, they will, but only in certain markets, which we've seen that as California. And Rodney and I've gone over the numbers on that happens to blend beautifully with what kind of income does it cost to buy a house. Well, we know that 50% of the country is 100,000. That's just we can't fight with the numbers. It's just what it is. But your area may or may not subscribe to that. There's pockets of deals all over the country. You'd be fine. Yes, but prices will drop, but just not everywhere. That's my point. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'll shut up now. Rodney, any? Hey, listen. Have a happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, I'm gonna take my wife to some nice dinner or something tonight. And make sure she has a good evening.
That's good. It's always good. What a pleasure. You're such a smart guy. It's a privilege to be yapping with you on this.
You're the smart one. Appreciate it, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Bye, Angie. Have a good day. See you now.
See ya.
Bye. Hang on. We got it. Let me do the outro.